the RNC is going to be a little bit more of that old school establishment. That Republican Party, frankly, no longer exists outside of the DC Beltway. But it takes a little while to make that transition. But again, I think the moves that happened today. I think that's the final blow. People have to understand that America first, the MAGA movement, is the new Republican Party. That is conservatism today. I think the RNC is going to be a little bit more of the.
Oh boy. Welcome to the National Newspaper Publishers Association's Let It Be Known. And yep, the MAGA, as he says it, that Donald Trump Jr. movement is in full swing. Republican Party is no more. Barrington always says, he phrases it by saying what used to be the Republican Party. And they have confirmed they fired everybody at the RNC, replaced them with Trump family members, Trump cousins, Trump mistresses, I guess. Everybody Trump. It's like a bunch of Margie Taylor Greens are now running the RNC. Unbelievable. But this is what those folks have chosen. Today, the NAACP. You remember when they did the travel advisory in Florida last year? Some people thought it was a travel ban. Derek Johnson and Leon Russell both told us directly it was not a ban, it was an advisory. Well, this time they are back with another advisory in Florida. They are urging Black student athletes to take their talents away from Florida. We'll talk about that this morning as the four times indicted, twice impeached former president continues to praise dictators, including Adolf Hitler. We got the latest in his fascination with dictators, and what he aspires to be. And speaking of Trump, one of my favorite anti-Trump guys continues to be Robert De Niro. And he's once again lashing out, calling Trump a monster, a nasty, hateful person. Oh, he went he went in on Trump. We'll give Robert De Niro some daylight this morning. And President Biden released his proposed budget that will never see the light of day. it's if you're in politics or understand these, they're like capital budgets or wish lists. And so it's a lot of things in it that would be good if it wasn't just a wish list. If the Republicans got serious, the former Republicans, the MAGA crew got serious about helping all people in America, including racist. It's a great budget, but at the same time, some curious news, and certainly not good news for the Biden administration. HUD Secretary Marsha Fudge abruptly announced that she is leaving in about a week. She's resigning. Very curious from the HUD secretary on that. We'll discuss that this morning as well. And I was looking for some like fun news, and the only thing fun that came to mind this morning, we talked about Mike Tyson stepping back into the ring. Now, reports indicate that match, as one boxer put it, is a bleeping joke in the sense that they're going to wear headgear, which is fine. Tyson is 58 years old, but they're going to have 18-ounce gloves. 80,000 people are going to fill AT&T Stadium in Texas for this fight. They're going to pay a boatload of money. Pay-per-view is going to go off the charts. It's going to be nothing more than what at least looks like a sparring match. So fighters wear 8 to 10-ounce gloves normally. When they are sparring, they usually wear 12, some wear 14-ounce gloves because there's more padding and the blows are softened. They're using like these. It's like I'm picturing the comedy, the old comedy of like Jerry Lewis with the big 18-ounce gloves or Abbott and Costello. Imagine that. I mean, I remember going to see Ray Leonard fight at Madison Square Garden. I just think back to that and think if he had 18-ounce gloves, I think I would have tore up my ticket and walked away. But people are going to go see Mike Tyson do this, just regardless. Bobby Henry says they're fighting with cotton balls on. And another piece of unscheduled news, I saw this. And I thought this was interesting, and I see Aunt Pam on, and I see Dr. Nicole and Michelle Madison and Joni King on. So I want to ask women um, this. I want to pose this to women because I saw Crystal Renee, the former wife of Neo, say this. It caught my attention um, because sometimes when folks divorce, a lot of times when folks divorce, there's like all this ill will and stuff, and people they say stuff. But she says, I have no ill feelings toward Neo. She says, I'm focused on my children, my career. But here's the line that she left it with. I chose my self-worth. Now Monique is on. Like a subtle diss? I mean, or did she just simply take the high road and says, I have no ill will. I just chose my self-worth. I mean, isn't that kind of like a dang, she got a dig in there, boy. He must she kind of held back, but she got a dig in there. I chose my self-worth. What is that? Is that like she's like going in on him without really going in on him? Just want to know. I don't know her, don't know him, don't follow either one of them. It just came across my when I was going through news stuff, and it came across, and I was like, "That's interesting." That she says, "I chose my self worth," because you can read it and say and think, okay, when they were together, he put he kind of was doing stuff that made her question her self worth or something like that. Dr. Nicole says no, she probably could have said a lot worse. She took the high road. That's kind of what it sounds like to me. It sounds like Michelle Madison says it makes you ask yourself, what did he do to her? Right. What did he do? What did Neo do? And it just so happens I came across a video of Neo on stage. Uh, was it just like 2 days ago? And I was wondering like how he was with he had pulled somebody on stage, and I mean, the girl that he pulled on stage, the young lady, I should say, that he pulled on stage was, uh, I mean, she was going all in. I mean, you can only imagine the type of dancing, and he was. I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt and say it this way: he was pretending to be aroused, and I'm thinking, ain't he married? See, I didn't know, and apparently they haven't been together in a minute. They've been divorced for a minute, I should say. So little did I know. So, Power 96 says, "Take the high road, or I will send OJ to visit you." That's his motto. Dag on it. I hope your wife never decides to at least agree to a divorce from you, because and go off on you, Power 96. Don't be sending OJ after your wife. That might not end well. It could end with some bloody gloves somewhere. Oh my gosh. Oh, here's some more gossip. Uh, we're not supposed to be doing gossip, right? But anyway, Greer cleared it. Former basketball wives, LA star Drea Michelle took to Instagram on Friday to celebrate International Women's Day by announcing she is pregnant with her third child. Houston Rockets guard Jalen Green is thought, that's right. I saw that Greer thought to be the father. Well, here's the catch. Drea is 39 and this is a baby. He's 22. He's barely legal. And she has already dated several other athletes in the past. The father to one of her children is a former NFL player. Oh, she goes big game hunting. Drea Michelle goes big game hunting. She's like, what is that? Ex Nick Derek Fisher's ex, who does that too. Like, was that Govin is her name or something like that? It's like athletes only, like Kim Kardashian, athlete, black athletes and black rappers. they they have a specific type. You know, the bank account for Drea Michelle. Make sure that the bank account it got 7 figures. You got 7 figures in your account. Okay, let's go make a baby. You 22? I got kids 22, but that's okay. Let's go make a baby. You got money. I better stop. The black folks gonna come after me. Can't have black folks coming after me. Bad enough other folks be coming after me. You know, I love my black people. Love my black people. Listen, it's true. We got together. Let me tell you what black people do. I'm gonna tell on myself. I'm telling my family. So my cousin, I was in New York last week. My cousin passed away, and he young. He was like 53, 54 years old. Had a brain injury for years, and we sorely miss him. You know, even that he had a brain injury. He was on a motorcycle accident, and some years ago he was in a coma for a while. He came out of the coma, and he such a good guy, fun guy. He loved his motorcycles, and so in any event, he died. He had a seizure. He died um, a couple of weeks ago, and so we go to, they planned the memorial service for him, and we go, and I'm looking for. I said, so give me the address. First, they say it was going to be at this funeral home on Suffolk Boulevard in Queens, and I said, okay. Then they sent another address. No, here's the updated address, but they didn't put the name of it. So what I always do is do a street search because that was something that sound because what I there's a pizza shop on Jamaica Avenue in Queens. It's Margarita Pizza, the best pizza in the history of pizza, right? And I haven't had it in so long, and so my thing is, I know I can probably walk. It depends on where the funeral is on Sutton Boulevard. I could probably walk to Margarita Pizza. And so I did the street search, and on the block there are two churches. Right? It's like the address was 12117. 12121 was a church. 12119 was a church. So I figured, oh, okay, this must be it's not a funeral home, must be another church. This is it. It was called Sandra's Sunflower Daycare Center. Sandra's son. Now, I'm not making fun of the fact that it probably was lighter on the pocket. But that wasn't even the funny part about it. So I'm go and look at this place. I finally get there. Many of my family members were already there. I'm looking around. It was dark. I'm like, okay, what? There are all these people hanging outside too. People I didn't recognize. Um, that can't be it. There's a DJ, folks dancing. It's a club basically. It's like a club. But I look. I see my mom in there, and then I see my sister. I'm like, okay, this is the right place. This is how black folks do it. This is how black folks do it. So when they say celebration of life, we celebrated life. My aunt Beyonce. See, y'all think Beyonce out in Texas, Jay-Z's wife. That's not the original Beyonce. Aunt Pam is the original Beyonce. And me and her, we partied. We celebrated my cousin's life. We danced. We led the dance. And Aunt Pam be getting down. She don't be playing. And I'm gonna tell you about Aunt Pam can sing too. She can sing. She can't just sing, she can sing. But going back to Drea Michelle, I want now if the shoe was on the other foot, the guy was 39 and she was 22. I think a lot of people would be coming at the guy, right? Is she a predator? Is she a predator? That's the question that I pose to you guys. Let me know. What are your thoughts? Joe Budden spoke on it. And is she a predator? Come on, Power 96. What do you I know Power 96 got some thoughts on that. Is Jay or Michelle? I mean, I said big game hunting, but the question posed is whether or not she's a predator. And he's with he put emphasis on it. He said, "Hell yeah." Oh, he impregnated her though, right? Oh my gosh. They do, and listen, let me preface this by saying I don't know Drea Michelle, so I'm not calling her a gold digger because she ain't messing with no broke. Um, but um, oh my gosh. I better stop. Dr. Nicole says the shoe is always on the other foot. Older man, younger woman is much more common. No news there. Uh-oh, look out. You can't be messing with these doctors. When they got doctor in front of their names, you can't mess with them. All that we are seeing with Diddy and all. um, Power 96 says she took it from him. And see, this is devolved. Michelle Madison said that's a pretty big age difference. However, he is over 21. These guys. So my point was, like I said, I ain't saying she a gold digger, but the NBA. I may have said this on the program before. They literally have a crash course when guys come out of college or high school, whatever, and into the league. They have a huge seminar, what is labeled or could be labeled a gold digger seminar, and they warn the young NBA players. I don't know if they do it in any other sport, but I know they do it with the NBA players. They warn them about getting caught up. They let them know because the NBA is the one sport where the players come into the league when they are drafted. If they're specifically if they're drafted in the first round, they are instant millionaires. Instant. Like baseball, they start them off. I mean, they start them off now in baseball. I think the lowest salary may be about $500,000-600,000 for a rookie. The NFL, they actually NFL they'll give them a nice contract to start off. A rookie contract might be a couple $1,000,000, but they have to earn it. They don't. It's not guaranteed. The NBA contract is totally guaranteed, and these guys come in, they're instant millionaires, and they train them. They have psychologists, psychiatrists, doctors, everybody in on these seminars, and they tell them, "Listen, this is what you ought to do." They even do something that can't even fathom. Part of the course, um, I can't even fathom it. They even say, if necessary, have someone in the room with you when you are consummating, I'll say it that way, your infatuation with some woman, which is absurd. And it's but they try to hammer home the point that take all necessary precautions. They coming at you not because you good looking or you all that. Like Prince once said, you got money, you look good to most people. You got money, they coming at you. Big Sis says his parents are probably furious, and Power 96 believes that the NBA has some of the dumbest men, young men, when it comes to women. Those, and he says it, gold diggers are at every game, and they travel from city to city. The New Orleans Pelicans have a fleet of gold diggers. And Mike V says part of the reason we can't build generation wealth is because we have people in our community robbing the next generation, such as this one. This is a prime example. And he's right about that. You can't go to an NBA game. Power 96 is certainly right. Listen, it's not to judge nobody. Hey, if that's your hustle, that's your hustle. And that's their so that's some of them. That's their hustle. But you can't go to an NBA game without seeing uh and I'm gonna say it might not be popular, but scantily clad women on sitting courtside. I was at the Knicks and Sixer game Sunday night. Yeah, you can't go to an NBA. I don't care if it's the best team, the Celtics, or the worst team. The, it doesn't matter if it's a horrible team, the Houston Rockets. They're going to be at least a handful of what appears to be gold diggers sitting courtside. So there you have it. Just spent almost a half hour talking about nonsense. So, but we do, and I will say, agree is right. We have a double standard when it comes to this thing. We do, we do. Because guys, they're no better. In fact, I mean, I won't say that they're worse. I think we underestimate how bad the women can be, but the guys, they are boneheads. And when you see situations like that, and like someone said his parents, Mike V, I think it was Mike V, said his parents must be furious, or whoever said that. When you see situations like that, it's hard to feel bad for them. And Greg always ready to put the gloves on, or not forget the gloves. She always ready to do the Vaseline thing and roll her sleeves up and all that. She said if it was her son, she'd be waiting to fight the girl. So Sebastian Telfair says that NBA wives are gold diggers. 90% of the players divorce after we retire, he says, according to Power 96. I think I heard that too. Oh, but again, and I use that term to um, sort of lightly, gold digger, but those guys, you can't blame the women. You can't blame them. They 90% of players divorce after we retire. The wives are gold diggers. No, the players are just irresponsible. How about that? These men are irresponsible. And Mike V is saying, how is this a double standard? What broke black men do you know are taking generational wealth from black women who are successful? Uh-oh. You got a debate going on. You got a debate. But I think it goes both ways. Now, this goes both ways, but these men are mostly irresponsible. Because it's like this: as a parent, you try to set the example for your children, right? And if they go astray, eh, you want to feel like you did everything you could. These players, they the examples have been set and set and set again and again and again. All they are seeing is one thing, or thinking one way, or as they say, thinking with the wrong head. And so, and they get so carried away. After a while, I mean, nah, forget about it. Let's go on. The head of the end, I gotta move on because I'm gonna eventually say something that somebody's gonna say, you in trouble. The head of the NAACP is calling on black student athletes to reconsider their decisions to attend public colleges and universities in Florida. They are challenging a new state policy that prohibits those institutions from using government funds on diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. In a letter sent yesterday to current and future student athletes of the National Collegiate Athletic Association, NAACP President and CEO Derek Johnson implored college-bound Black athletes to choose wisely, quote unquote. He says diversity, equity, and inclusion are paramount to ensuring equitable and effective educational outcomes. The value, he says, Black and other college athletes bring to large universities is unmatched. Derrick Johnson went on to say that if these institutions are unable to completely invest, I should say, in those athletes, it's time they take their talents elsewhere. And it's so interesting because not long ago, and not once, Power 96 was writing in the chat about this, saying that athletes should go elsewhere. We know that Ron DeSantis, the governor there, signed a bill that prohibits public colleges and universities from using state and federal funds on programs commonly grouped together under the acronym of DEI. And so NAACP President Johnson sent this letter after the University of Florida eliminated all DE&I positions to comply with that state law. Even Emmitt Smith, the great NFL Hall of Famer, Dallas Cowboy running back, who is an alum of the school, um, told minority athletes that they should be aware and vocal about this decision. Emmett is saying, look, don't take a look, choose wisely, choose wisely. So, and the Republicans, politicians there, the MAGA politicians, are doubling down. They're saying that they hope that more states follow suit and eliminate DE and I programs. Mm. It's insane. Of course, those who advocate for DE and I in education argue that such efforts are essentially to make schools more racially and socially inclusive to sort of level the playing field. And of course, in Texas, Greg Abbott, the Republican governor there, signed a law ordering DEI in offices at all state-funded colleges and universities to shut down. And also, in the current legislative session, MAGA lawmakers in more than 30 states have introduced or passed more than 100 bills to either restrict or regulate DEI efforts. And we know Mayor Woodfin in Birmingham went in last week and said, or last month, and said that if his state in Alabama passed a bill to block funding for DE&I in public colleges, he too would encourage student athletes to seek out programs in other states. And the money is the money that these athletes bring in for these schools. And let's look, and down in Florida, the university, they're big time athletes are mostly Black. So, for example, folks, the University of Florida sports teams have generated uh, $177 million in revenue in a 1 year span. 1 year span. So they're generating $177 million pretty much every year. So President Johnson, in his letter to student athletes, said he recognizes that not all Black student athletes have the financial freedom to participate in a boycott of Florida's public school system. He says, while it is our duty to spread awareness and encourage action around these egregious assaults, we also recognize that protests can come at a price. The sad reality is, for many Black student athletes, collegiate sports may be their sole opportunity at achieving the upward mobility necessary to propel them into their rightful places in society. This imbalance of power and profit demands a response, particularly because these institutions reap considerable financial benefits from the very individuals they failed to stand by in matters of diversity, equity, and inclusion. He says if any institution is to reap the benefits of Black talent, it is only right that they completely invest in Black futures. And so we got a lot of comments there. Power 96 says, I am waiting on the responses from the PWI coaches in Florida. 100%. Bobby Henry says this is not the first time that the suggestions for Black athletes to return home to HBCUs. Maybe now we can come together and make this happen. It's about the financing, as the president Johnson said. Um, they get these big time scholarships, and then you hear so much. So they're in such a place. You hear so much about student loan debt. Supreme Court saying, "Oh, you can't cancel student loan debt." Um, for many Black families, as Bobby surely knows, for many Black families, if you could avoid student loans, you're going to avoid it. And so they do go take their talents to a PWI institution, and which again is why you had affirmative action, why you had DE&I, so that they can freely choose, which means uh, the choices would include, hey, I don't have to worry about the money. I'm going to Howard. I'm going to Morgan State. I'm not gonna be. I'm gonna do the opposite of Deion Sanders. you know. Mike V says the way Democratic leaders counter this is craft policy in their own states that make it viable for those athletes and organizations to operate in their own states. Be bold and push back. The problem, Mike V, as you well know, is that when you look around these state houses, because people pay attention only during the general election, for the most part. There are many people, I should say, who only pay attention during the general election. If you look around, they are they've been taken over by MAGA, and they have the majority. So we do hear pushback. We had Ron Reynolds on the show, the representative from Texas, um, in the state house of Texas, and he talked about what he and other Democrats out there try to do, but they don't have the majority. So it makes it very difficult. Um, and Power 96 says if half of the Black students athletes left FSU, UF, and Miami, those schools would change, DE and I. But our young athletes can't boycott a Waffle House. All right, and I'll go to Bobby and we'll move on. If we would realize not only should we speak daily with our dollars, we should also speak universal with our talents. That's a that's a good statement if I understood it. Yeah, I get it. Now let's do our stomach churning discussion of the twice impeached, four times indicted former president who civil juries twice found. A civil jury twice found him, as you know, and we talk about it all the time, responsible for sexual assault. He's he is likely to face another civil jury in that E. Jean Carroll case because even as we speak, he is still disparaging her. This is why twice he had to go to court, and twice the money the money was 8 million, 9 million the first time, and then it was 83 million the second time. Somebody put up the bond for him, $90 million in the E.G. Carroll case. He needed to appeal, and he got somebody to put the bond up for him. But he's going to the well again. Because one thing about E. Jean Carroll, she and her attorney is not backing down. And they are resolved that every time he opens his mouth, they want to get paid. They want it to cost them. So he's still disparaging her. But Trump, to him, Viktor Orban, who is the Hungarian strongman, to Trump, he's fantastic. To Trump, Chinese leader Xi Jinping is brilliant, while he refers to Kim Jong Un as an okay guy. But most alarming, he allegedly said that Adolf Hitler did good things, which of course is a worldview that would reverse decades old U.S. foreign policy in a second term should he win November's presidential election. Uh, one person close to Trump, well, was close to him during his uh, White House years, said Trump openly talked about Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong Un as okay guys. He says we pushed North Korea into a corner. General John Kelly spoke out and said to Trump, it was like we were goading these guys. If we didn't have NATO, then Putin wouldn't be doing these things. But then he lavished extreme praise for Orban while hosting him at Mar-a-Lago last week. Hosted the dictator last week. Isn't that something? um, he says of Viktor Orban, there's nobody that's better, smarter, or a better leader. He's the boss, and he's a great leader, fantastic leader, is what Trump said. And then he claimed that in Europe and around the world, they respect him. And we know that the Trump's admiration for autocrats have been reported on in the past, but now it's being highlighted again because he's doing it again. And then there's a new book out called The Return of Great Powers, where General Kelly and others who served under Trump have given new insight into how or why they warn that Trump consistently praises dictators, specifically those who are opponents of the U.S. and opposed to U.S. interests. And so, and they also mentioned how he envies their power. John Bolton, who was Trump's national security advisor, says that Trump views himself as a dictator, as a big guy. He said he likes dealing with other big guys, and big guys like Erdogan in Turkey get to put people in jail if he wants to, and you don't have to ask anybody's permission. Trump likes that, he said. Then he says this. General Kelly says this of Trump, that he's not a tough guy by any means, but in fact, Kelly says he's quite the opposite. But that's how he envisions himself. But Trump reserved some of his most unnerving praise for Hitler. He says, "Well, but Hitler did some good things," and to which General Kelly says, "Well, what did he do that was good?" And Trump says he rebuilt the economy. And to which Kelly says, what did he do with that rebuilt economy? He turned it against his own people and against the world. And I said, sir, You can never say anything good about the guy. Nothing. And then he goes on to say, I mean, Mussolini was a great guy in comparison. And General Kelly says it's hard to believe Trump missed the Holocaust, though, and pretty hard to understand how he missed the 400,000 American GIs that were killed in the European theater. It is this is what people, his base is supporting. Um, Kelly also talked about Trump seeking the loyalty from his senior staff. When Trump shows, in his own word, Kelly says he shows no loyalty. Said he would always ask about loyalty issues, about how when Kelly pointed out to him the German generals as a group were not loyal to him, and in fact tried to assassinate him a few times, that he didn't know that. Kelly says that he truly believed when he brought us generals in that we would be loyal, that we would do anything he wanted us to do. It is it's think about it. Just think about this guy who a congressional investigative committee said traded favors with enemies of the United States. This guy who had a boatload of classified documents in his garage or wherever at Mar-a-Lago in his kitchen. This is what Power 96 says. Trump and his dictator buddies are a danger to mankind. Remember, Russia and Germany were allies during World War II, and Hitler turned on Stalin. Putin will do the same thing to Trump. And David Youngblood says, it's obvious Trump is a small boy in a man's body. And that is a great segue, David, to Robert De Niro again going in on Donald Trump, this time calling him a monster, a nasty, hateful person. The comments from Robert De Niro are just the latest amongst the ongoing war between De Niro and Trump, as De Niro has made his stand very, very clear. De Niro appeared on an episode of Real Time with Bill Maher. Then he followed up with Jimmy Kimmel. He says, quote, we want to live in a world that we want to live in and enjoy living in, or live in a nightmare. He says, vote for Trump and you'll get the nightmare. Vote for Biden and we'll be back to normalcy. He says, I just don't want to feel the way I did, and many of us did, the many months after the election in 2016, where we couldn't believe that it happened. He says, the guy is a total monster, and anybody, I don't understand it, he says. I guess they get behind that kind of logic. They want to screw with people, screw them because they're unhappy about something. He just didn't hold back at all, Robert De Niro. He added that he would never play him as an actor because I can't see any good in him, nothing. And this is a guy who's played some violent gangsters and said he would refuse any role about Trump. And that's the point. Greer says his cult followers have already drank the Kool-Aid.
Ignoring the Bill of Rights, tearing up the Constitution, pining for a brief stint as a dictator. Well, that settles it. When the good, patriotic, Constitution-loving, real Americans hear Trump's disrespect and disdain for our sacred constitutional principles, they will be outraged.
I'd rather have Donald Trump as a dictator for 4 years. Absolutely. This country needs a dictator. I hate to say that, but it's the truth.
He could stand on the front steps of the White House and commit murder, and I'm with him.
If he says it, then I'll go with it. And if he wants to be a dictator, then so be it.
This is it. The Thomas Nast cartoon. Patriots festooned in American flags, co-signing dictatorship. Remember we the people? You know there's more words after that, right? Smaller font, still binding. Look, if you want to love Trump, love him. Go to the rallies, buy the sneakers. You want to give him absolute power? You want him to be the leader uber alles? You want him to have the right of kings? You do you. But stop framing it as patriotism. Because the one thing you cannot say is that Donald Trump is following the tradition of the founders. He is advocating for unity.
De Niro says, who's following up there with Jon Stewart, nothing at all is redeemable in him. And whoever the people are who want to vote for him and they look like intelligent people, do they? Now, that's where we went wrong, De Niro, but he said they look like intelligent people. I guess he was just trying to placate them a little bit. But for some reason, it can't be. It cannot be. And you heard those. If he wants to stand in front of the White House and shoot somebody, commits murder, I'm standing with him. I mean, it's just, you got to be kidding me. But folks, think about it. Folks who follow the Black press of America, folks who live in this country, Black folks, are we surprised at those who support him? Because we know what MAGA stands for. We know what Make America Great Again stands for. The emphasis is on the last word, again. Again, to them, we know what that means, right? And so are we surprised? We look, this is not even about reading the tea leaves. This is about being there in your face. We talked already this morning about them eliminating DE&I. We've talked about them eliminating affirmative action. Just yet last night, I saw House Leader Hakeem Jeffries, Democratic leader, 11 o'clock last night, give an interview after coming out of a meeting or a session, totally now based on that session and previous ones, of course, convinced or I mean, not they didn't have to convince him any further, but they again showed him and Hakeem Jeffries that they want to remove all safety nets, Social Security, any type of welfare, Medicaid, Medicare, and you think about what are they setting up? What are they setting up? Because they don't want women to have control or make decisions, even if it meant them dying. That idiot from North Carolina, the lieutenant governor, who wears blackface, and they say he's black. I say he wears blackface. Said he agrees that we need to go back to when women can't vote, where women are not supposed to decide on the control or decide or over what happens with their bodies. And what he of course in blackface don't understand is that they his position in the big house will always be precarious, before he's back on the plantation or dead. And yeah, Greer says word on the street is that Trump may be receiving intelligence briefing soon. So David says, remind the people we had black overseers on the plantation, right? And that's what I'm saying, David, right? And if they stepped out of line in any way, if say he met eye to eye with the master's wife, just by accident. He's done. He's getting whipped and sent out with the rest of the slaves to pick the cotton. He loses his place. Mike V says this election cycle is a battle over the future of society. We will be a democracy or an apartheid is the question, and what are we willing to do to defend our future? And that's it. Apartheid. And again, um, that is the least of what they are seeking. Again, you heard watching that clip, and you heard them, and you saw what they look like. The only thing missing was the hood over their faces. That was it. That was the only thing missing. Um, he De Niro goes on to say, if Trump wins the election, he says he won't be on the show anymore. He'll come looking for me. And he says there'll be things that happen that none of us could have imagined. This is a privileged man speaking. This is a privileged individual, a very wealthy Italian American, very famous Italian American, saying that things are going to be happening that none of us could have imagined. He goes on to say that that's what happens in that kind of dictatorship, which is what he says. Let's believe him. Take him at his word, as De Niro is imploring people. And before he left the interview, Robert De Niro called Trump a sociopath, a psychopath, a malignant narcissist. He says the bottom line is Biden's our guy. He represents what this country's supposed to be about. That's from Robert De Niro. And of course, Trump tried to shoot back. He uses same stuff too. He says Robert De Niro, whose acting talents have greatly diminished, with his reputation now shot, must even use a teleprompter for his foul and disgusting language, so disrespectful to our country, Trump says. He has become unwatchable both in movies and with the fools that destroyed the Academy Awards, bringing them from one of the top shows in the country to a low-rated afterthought. See, you gotta, when people, they say it all the time, when people tell you who they are, you gotta listen. Look, why did he say that, folks, about the Academy Awards? He said the fools that destroyed the Academy Awards. He started that. Just let me fill you in case you missed it. What's that? ICYMI. In case you missed it, hashtag. He started going in on the Academy Awards. Remember the Will Smith slap? But it wasn't because of the Will Smith slap. You remember who directed, produced, and dominated that show? For the first time ever, it was an all-black production crew. And that's when Trump started going in on the Academy Awards. Hasn't stopped since. Hasn't stopped since. And you know how Trump does when he wants to emphasize something. He's always emphasizing something, and always like a mad scientist, mad typing. You can see him mad typing. He put the fools that destroyed the Academy Awards in all caps. In all caps. And he goes on to say that De Niro should focus on his life, which is a mess, rather than the lives of others. He has become a total loser. This is another one of his favorite refrains. One of the greatest actors in the history of Hollywood is Robert De Niro. There's no question about it. And we think about him with The Godfather and the other Goodfellas, etc. But I found so much humor in what's the one with Ben Stiller? Just it's like 3 parts of Fockers. And there's been others where he played the grandpa. So this guy has, in his later career, has found great success on the comedy side, but to Trump, he's a loser. Biden released his annual budget yesterday, laying out his aspirational funding priorities and what serves as an important message event as he works to convince voters who are sour on the economy to give him a second term. Uh, included proposals to lower costs for families, increase investments in American manufacturing, strengthen Social Security and Medicaid. And as I said earlier last night, Hakeem Jeffries mentioned again that the MAGA folks, Trump and of course the leader, want to get rid of Social Security and Medicare, which you paid into your whole life, and all you're getting is what you paid into it, not even with interest. Um, Specifically, Biden's budget will include provisions to raise taxes on large corporations, crack down on corporate profit shifting, and propose a minimum 25% tax on billionaires. The White House is arguing that these provisions would cut the deficit by about $3 trillion over 10 years and cut taxes for many middle and low income Americans. The budget proposal also includes national paid leave and advancements in cancer research. Ah, Trump cut taxes only for billionaires. Well, also, which many of us view as a blow to the Biden administration. Housing and Urban Development Secretary Marsha Fudge, who of course is a former chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, and she's also has been a staunch advocate of the Black press. She announced that she's stepping down from her role in the administration. At 71 years old, Marsha Fudge disclosed that her last day in office is coming right up. It'll be March the 22nd. She says she is going home. She says, "It's time to go home. I do believe strongly that I have done just about everything I could do at HUD for this administration as we go." This is a quote, "as we go into this crazy, silly season of an election." She's only the second Black woman to lead HUD, and she certainly has been a key figure in leading the agency through housing crises that were triggered by the COVID-19 pandemic. Marsha Fudge has also pushed for the federal government to include the National Newspaper Publishers Association on behalf of the Black Press of America in its advertising buys. But she has really done a yeoman's job at HUD. I mean, we visited with her a few times. She's had open discussions with the media, particularly Black media. So she called the housing crisis. She said about the housing crisis. She says it's not a red or blue issue, a Republican or Democrat issue. She says that everybody knows that it is an issue, so it's not one-sided. It's an American issue, and she's been working diligently to try and do something about the homeless crisis that we have. She said that there's a need for more than $70 billion to address the demand for affordable housing and repair aging public housing developments. And she's not wrong there. Like I said, I just went to New York again, and those public housings, passing those public, I'm like, it looked like this. That same graffiti mark, that same boarded up window, that same broken elevator, when I was 8 years old, was there as you go to these different ones throughout, and it's so funny because, like, Harlem, they've been it's been gentrified, but those little spots in Harlem where, like, my grandfather lived and stuff, 122nd Street and stuff like that, they still have, uh, certain places that are exactly the same, and you wonder, how is it still standing? So she's 100% right. You go through Brooklyn and you see the housing developments there. So she's 100% right, but nobody's gonna dispute that. I mean, housing projects have been, um, they put families in there, and that's it. Very little maintenance done. It's just wrong. But Marshall Fudge, it is a blow, without question, to this administration, and it leaves a lot of questions. Yes, I was talking to Austin on the phone yesterday, and yeah, he had called me up. He says, "What do you read into this? Why couldn't she wait until the election?" He says, "It doesn't feel right." And Austin, Austin has been around Capitol Hill. He's been around. Austin's been around the block. He knows this stuff. And when you've been around it as much as he has, your gut feeling on something is usually right. And so I agree. I told him, yeah, there is more to this story than her just wanting to go home. There's more to it. David says she's tired. Yeah, she's look, a, l- a lot of congressmen, they're not this Congress, of course, is not a part of the administration, but a lot of members of Congress have announced their retirements, announced that they're leaving on both sides. Folks are tired of this the politics of the United States and how volatile and vicious it is. And yes, David, the press club, the this is Black Press Week, headed back to DC, and the National Press Club, noon on Friday, is the state of the black press. And I understand we're expecting Congressman Jim Clyburn, Congressman CBC Chair Stephen Horsford, among others, at the State of the Black Press luncheon. And of course, Dr. Chavis will deliver the keynote address on the state of the Black press, all a part of Black Press Week. We're also certainly looking forward to Howard University, going to the archives there, and um, then the enshrinement. I'm told Zora Neale Hurston will be this year's inductee. It's like the Black Press Hall of Fame, but basically is what it is. She'll be enshrined. They call it the gallery, I guess, but it's the Black Press of America Hall of Fame, and it's Zora Neale Hurston. I just learned prior to going on air. So it's to be a good week, all part of the activities for Black Press Week this week in Washington, D.C. And yes, the press club, the National Press Club, is the site of the State of the Black Press address. Last week we had the National Urban League gave the State of Black America report, and you can read about that at blackpressusa.com and other Black-owned NMPA affiliated publications, their websites. Um, the Howard University event, is that open to the public? Here's what I'll say about that, because I haven't gotten direction on that at all, David, to be honest with you. Just show up, David. Just come. David, nobody's going to say no to David Youngblood. So just come on, David. we got your back. We got your back. Also, yeah, it's okay, David. See, Greer's like, why don't you know stuff? You should know stuff. I gotta teach you everything. She says it is open. Come on down, David, as they say on The Price is Right. And before you go, folks, I know everybody's got to head to work, take the kids to school, the grandkids, whatever. Go to YouTube and hit subscribe, LIBK-news, and share your thoughts. And tomorrow, hopefully, we don't have to talk about gold diggers tomorrow. If we do, we do. But go to our YouTube page and subscribe. And we, folks, enjoy you so much. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching.